Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Luening, Horst Luening. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com, and beside me is Benedikt, Ben, my son. And today we're talking about the Jura whiskies, where the distillery resides on the Isle of Jura and got its name from the island. Well, today we mixed a little bit up the thing with the time, but it's not just us who did the faults. No, it's YouTube, and we keyed in the European time for the start, and YouTube said, well, probably you're in California, and now we switch over with the time delay, and then it was 1700, and then we changed again back to 1100 here in Central Europe. Wow, what a mess. And well, we are not quite sure when we start this show, because in the moment it's quite late in California, and I got up very early today at 6 a.m. here in Central European summertime for the live event of the Tesla Motors company and looked at their live stream. And the day before there had been a live stream in Germany, in Munich, where they started in a solar car in Germany, and I was on the other side of the live stream. My wife said, well, here, I've seen you, got a WhatsApp. So live streaming is becoming more and more important. And well, in the moment we have 24 visits or viewers here on our channel. So we have to do our homework asking people when the right time is. And globalization is quite difficult because everywhere is a different time. Yeah,
it will never be quite good for everybody, because here somebody says, greetings from China, Xu Wang. Okay, so in China it's probably something like 11 o'clock at night or 2 in the morning. I don't know, maybe you write it in the chat how much, what time it is at your place now. Greetings from Rosenheim, yeah, okay, someone getting up at 11 and joining in from around here. And Kia ora. So yeah, that's from the chat. We have some Chinese people in there, probably a bunch of Americans as well. Yeah.
But. So we had a lot of work going on here. We got some attacks on our website, on our forum especially, where a lot of work to do. Our server is quite slow because there's so much traffic on our server. So we have to move there as well to a different, bigger machine. And well, therefore we also mixed up the announcement on the website as well. So today we are quite aware that only very few people are visiting here. And thank you very much that you well have the time visiting us here. And yeah, now
we got a great diversity here. Hello from Scotland, 9 p.m. New Zealand. Hi from Oxford. Greetings from Lebanon. It's 5 o'clock and 3 minutes here in China. Greetings from Spain. So that's all over the world. Okay.
Wonderful. Probably we did it better this time because it's the other half of the globe.
I did a bit of Google Analytics when to start streaming. So and had a look where we had the most people on viewing our stuff, and that was 11 o'clock in the morning. So we did it 11 o'clock in the morning. Then Groetjes from Netherlands. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. Australia. So all over the globe. It can't be that bad. Okay.
Wonderful. And if we just have a few dozen visitors, then everybody has the chance to chat and we're able to answer. Yesterday we had a chat with half a thousand visitors, and those were, well, in another language, and those were, well, it was so crowded, and the comments poured in.
The chat is going really, really fast. I don't know if maybe I didn't put in the slow chat last time. I don't know. So I think we're
done with the homework,
and let's just dive right into the Jura stuff. So, there you go. So what is Jura? Jura is not just a distillery, but Jura is also an island in the front of the coast of Scotland, and it's just the neighbor of the Isle of Islay, which is very famous for its smoky whiskey. And we're currently, the picture is at the Caol distillery, and we're looking out the window. The window is a bit dirty if you see it here, and we're looking over the Sound of Islay. It's a stream between Islay and Jura, and we're looking at the pubs of Jura. And you had quite a story to the pub for the pubs of Jura.
The fishermen came back from their long trips to the North Sea, the Arctic Sea, and when they came back, what they've seen were the pubs of Jura, and they remembered them from their shape of their wives at home. But if you look carefully, they have 3 pubs, and I always remember at the Total Recall film of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, so the Isle of Jura is not just famous for the whiskey Isle of Jura, but also they have a lot of deer there, so hunting game is around there, and you can have about, I don't know, 3,000 deer on there, and only, I don't know, maybe 200 people or something like that. And the pubs of Jura are also a nice sporting location. There is a marathon every year for the Isle of Jura marathon, and they run around the island and up the pubs, which are about 785 meters high. And
2,300 feet.
Okay, nice calculation there. And what else do we have on Jura? There is also a very famous book from Jura, written on Jura. I think you have some story there.
It's Orwell, 1984, and well, he visited Jura in 1948, and for this dystopian novel, he just switched the last figures of the year. And he was there because he was ill from tuberculosis. And he should have moved to Madeira, where the Empress Sissi from Austria healed her tuberculosis, because the weather is better, a lot better than this rainy, cold island. And but the spirits aren't that good as on Jura.
Yeah, sure. So, but Orwell, I know a story about Orwell. Orwell did some rowing when he was on Jura, and he went out with one of his younger cousins or something like that, siblings, and he went rowing, and he wanted to go round Jura up in the north, and then they got into the Corrie Vrecken. There is a vortex around the north shore of Jura. It's called the Corrie Vrecken. It's quite dangerous. So they broke the ship, got into the water, and luckily they got rescued, and he was able to finish his novel. So that's a story from Orwell that not that many people know. So
there's a bottling, a vintage 1984, and one of our relatives has one because she's born in 1984, and the price had been around 50 or 60, and today it's around 500.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so it's Orwell. It's pushed the price.
Orwell. So when you drive over on the island, there's only one road. So when you drive through that town, you find this is like the capital of Jura, and you have it's already the maximum size. I don't know why. There you go. So the capital of Jura, you have the Jura Hotel, which has a nice, what do you call it? One nice restaurant. I've eaten there. The venison burger is quite nice. And then you have the distillery. When you read this year, you have 1810, which when it was established. And in 1832 it was registered, so that's when it officially became a distillery. We are currently standing on the pier. A lot of the townsfolk use the pier for fishing, or some of them have a boat and then they can drive over to ship over to Jura or even the mainland. And when we look at the distillery, where it says Jura Distillery, that's about the mash house where the mash tun is located. And when you just go onto the left side, here is then the still room where the stills are located. So that much to a bit about the background of Jura, and let's just dive right in with the first bottling.
Yeah, the first one is the Jura Origin, 10 years old. And well, the sequence for tasting the Jura whiskies is not that complicated. We start with the 10 years old, because this is the standard bottling. Then the Jura Zone, the 16-year-old, which is the older one available steadily. And then we have the Superstition, because this one is partly smoky, and the Prophecy is extremely smoky. So we have a nice run from weaker, not that intense, to the most intense up. So that if we would have started with the smoky ones first, then it might have covered our mouth in such a way that we're not able to taste the weaker ones. So this is the origin, light and delicate is written on the label. It's 40% ABV, and in former times it was 43% ABV. And one of the an old painter which did science fiction pictures or paintings. He lived a long time in Scotland, and he visited our premise quite often. He's dead for 10 years now, and he brought the Jura 10 years old to me, which was well underrepresented in my mind over the years, because it was such a remote island. It wasn't smoky as the Islay whiskies are, so it's quite a bit underestimated. It's one of the most intense whiskies without smoke in it, with 40% ABV.
Mm. You were quite generous with me for 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so don't finish it. This one shows a little bit of, well, an aromatic note. Might not be smoke, but there's an aromatic note in it which remembers in smoke, but as well there's already a little spiciness on the nose. It's a 10-year-old, not these modern no-age statement whiskies, but it's 10 years old, and that for decades and decades. And
so,
yeah.
I do have a bit of creaminess, bit of nuttiness, very slight sweetness and vanilla in there. So the bourbon character is it's just bourbon matured, right?
Yeah, well,
bourbon character is very, very light. So my one question to the chat and everybody who's watching: do you actually have the glass at hand? Because in Germany we sold a lot of these miniature packs, and some of the big ones as well. And we just keep talking to the chat, and they say, "That's what I smell," and then we smell something. So, do you actually have the whiskey at hand?
Otherwise, it's just a theoretical tasting. Yeah. So there is a little spiciness, like almond nuttiness in it, and so I think it might not be all bourbon cask, but it might as well be some refill ex-sherry casks where the sherry aroma is already gone and only the wood is coming through. 11 o'clock in the morning, quite a new experience for me. I can't remember that I had a whiskey at 11 a.m. No, not really. It's impressive, it's full, it's impact. Yeah. And this spicy almond character carries on, but there is in the back as well some fruitiness and a little sweetness, which remembers, yeah, what's it?
I do have to say, 11 o'clock in the morning, 40% ABV is feeling like it's 50. I just did a tasting of a 57% ABV whiskey a few days ago, and it was not as strong as this one, but it also has a lot of strength in what is it? I find it quite spicy and heavy, and with oak and a bit of a medicinal character, and that little bit of a what do you call it? Medicine character.
Yeah.
medicinal character.
The afterwards, in the aftertaste, it's smooth. It doesn't carry for long this intensity, and there's a little bit. I wouldn't say this medicinal, but it's the sea, little seashore, some strange tang or iodine. Yeah. So this is
now that you say it, I do have a bit of that as well.
For a 40% ABV, it's an intense one, but it's not burning because there's not a lot of alcohol in it, but its intensity, well, from the distillery character and the cask. Now after the first sip, there's a little bit more of vanilla in it, and a little bit of sweetness coming up with the caramel from the casks.
There is a question in the chat. Even though we don't have anybody telling us how the whiskey tastes, we have a question in the chat. What your glassware? What kind? Where is it from? And then somebody says at Whisky.de handcrafted glass. You got some news on that you want to share? Or?
Yeah. So this glass was designed especially by me. I said, well, forget about design. We're just doing function. And therefore I said, well, I would like to have a glass which does not fall over if you have a big tasting and a lot of things going on your table. So I need a short stem, but I do not want to have no stem at all. Because in this way you can have a better look at the liquid. And then I would have a big tulip so that there is a big surface for evaporation of the aromas, and then I need a tulip going through like a chimney on the top for concentrating the aromas, and then a lip on top to have a broad flaw on my tongue, because if it's too short, there's no lip and the liquid runs out in the very small beam stream, then it will get very back in the very back. In the back, there are the most intense buds for bitterness. So this is a glass for well, just for the ideal tastes and not for design. Not too bad. And this one is fabricated really by hand by an artisan. From crystal glass, and now we're coming up with that glass in huge quantities. We got an
industrial style glass then.
Yeah, but with crystal glass as well. And so there are differences between those two glasses because they are handmade, and the new ones are all the same, and well, they're running in tens of thousands out of that machine.
They're not handmade anymore, but they will be cheaper.
They will be cheaper, they will be better quality because it's no longer handmade. And well, we're looking for a way to ship those glasses all around the world, and I think we will succeed in. Don't be too sorry if it takes another year until we have those shippings established.
We have at least one guy who has the whiskey here.
Ah, wonderful.
Herr Flodo, joining in again, tasting from yesterday. He's just a German who was already here yesterday. Yeah, we had him in the chat quite often. Okay, so let's dive right into the production again. So we actually start with the production now. So we start off with the ingredients. The ingredients are malted barley. So it's a single malt, and the malted barley has to be grinded down. And this is the Prometheus patented mill, and I think it was patented something like 1820 or something like that, or 1830, because I think the mill is from 1834 or something around that. So it's early 1900th mill, but it is a very, very robust design, and it just runs very nicely. I don't think the motor belongs to that mill, but
yes, I think they changed from the old transmission.
They probably had a transmission belt. Yeah. But so this was a very old one, and the thing is, we do have 2 peated whiskey here on the cask, and that means they have to produce unpeated whiskey and peated whiskey. So what they have to do is they have to be careful not to spoil the peated whiskey, the unpeated whiskey production with a peated whiskey production. So they only have 4 weeks in the year where they produce peated whiskey. Just keep in mind the 4 weeks that I've been told by the distillery, and that is a bit of an old number. So I think the popularity of the Superstition and the Prophecy, which are the peated whiskies, is quite high. So maybe they have to do more than 4 weeks now. So in 1978, they had malting floors and they did their own malting, but they have given up on doing the malting on their own. So they get their malt from Port Ellen today. So that's just a normal concerto malt, yeah. And that is then the malt mill. The malt mill then continues as the grist into the mash tun, and then the water is mashed. The grist is mashed, and you dissolve out all the sugars and all the starches. Then you can later then ferment. So this is the mash tun, and it's a stainless steel lauter tun, semi-lauter tun. So how this all works is you have here all the grist, and then you sprinkle on water. First you sprinkle on relatively normal hot water with 60 degrees Celsius, and then you have second wash, third wash, and some distilleries. I don't know, if you wanted the details on that, then please watch our distillery video, because I go into more detail how they do it. And then they wash out all the starches, and they get what do you call it? You call it then
the residue, the draft.
The draft. No, the residue is the draft, but the thing that you use is the. It's not called wash. I forgot it.
It's the wort.
Wort. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. So yeah, that was the malt mill and the mash tun. So let's get back to our next whiskey.
So the 16 years old. I think it's wonderful that Jura has this 16 years old whiskey constantly available. There are a lot of distilleries which, well, run out of stocks, and Jura, well, that they weren't that popular in the past, helped them to preserve the warehouses or the stocks, so that there are the 16-year-old available for a longer time. If you look out on the market, the design of the bottles changed a lot. This is a special bottling, a special tin.
Special casing.
Tin,
from,
yeah.
I think 1 or 2 years ago, and that was just a limited edition. So it's not highly available on the market.
So
we
today
currently have some
they have
stock,
those card boxes, and thank you very much for the distributor who was able to supply us with these bottles. Yeah, we are happy about that. Yeah, the 16-year-old is a different one. I think there are significant amounts of Amoroso and Oloroso sherry casks, whiskies in the mixture. Yeah,
definitely.
And they bring a lot more of fruitiness, and the age of the whiskey, the 16 years old, brings, well, depth and intensity in terms of cask. And
it's much heavier.
Much heavier, and I think the 16-year-old is a typical 10-year-old, and after they decided, or they took out the casks for the 10 years old, there will be some left over which weren't that matured, that intensely matured for the 10-year-old, and then they add those Amoroso and Oloroso sherry cask influences to it, and this adds up to a heavy, wonderful, fruity, deep whiskey.
I do have a much deeper note. You do have dried fruit in there, but also you do have a bit of a, what do you call it, dark flavors, deep flavors, like a bit of a cacao, a bit of a chocolate note, bitter chocolate. You do have a bit of a leathery note in there, a bit of a oaky note in there, but it's not like like disturbing, or it's well-rounded and well-bodied. I like that one.
There's as well the aromatic notes in it I found in the 10-year-old, and there is, well, a note of the near sea, like tang.
Mm.
Yeah. Have a sip. Mm.
Mm.
Mm. Quite strong on the tongue.
Mm.
Very intense on my tongue. It's not sharp. It's just 40% ABV as the 10 years old is. But there's a much stronger oak influence in it. And those sherry's aromas go in. There is close to none bitterness in the whiskey. A little bit of a chocolate aftertaste, as it said. And the aftertaste is welcoming. It's not a rush or sharp in the aftertaste. It's full and round, and there's some sweetness in the back, and there's complexity.
What I also do find is herbs. A lot of herbs in there, like, you know, these old bonbons or these old candy thingies, hard candy that you swallow and you realize, oh, that's a herbs candy. Like, that's the old people's candy. It's like that, with a bit of a sherry touch, a bit of a cherry touch, a bit of a berry touch. just came to me like that, but
yeah,
it rhymes.
There is as well a little bit of citrus in it. This might be a residue of the distillery character, and yeah, going over to oranges because it's older. It's a little bit of sweetness in it, and well, first time I had that, there was a little bit of peppery of ginger, but today.
Quite nice. So it's if you look at the 10 and the 16.
Oh, sorry.
The
now
10,
the peppery is there after the second one.
The 10 is also is a well-rounded, well-bodied, but the 16-year-old is I would say a deep, heavy, herby whiskey, definitely.
Do we have more comments?
Oh, I think no. I'm finding it always a bit disappointing that we have that trouble with the taxes, that we can't sell outside Germany, because here's some guy from the Netherlands who asked if he can access a whiskey shop, and yes, you can access it, but you can't buy it because we can't pay the taxes in your country yet. So we have to figure out a way to get the taxes back from the German state and then deliver it to the state. And
try to get taxes back from the state.
Yeah, try to get taxes back from the state. Very nice business. Very easy. And then pay it to the taxes of Netherlands or whatever, where we want to ship it, because then we can just ship out one of these boxes, and it's much more fun if you enjoy the live stream then. So here one says, where's the 12-year-old elixir? It's not
the elixir is not here.
It's not in the package.
Yeah, as well as the Jura's Mara, I think it's called. And I took all those videos at my cask. So you find the tastings of the elixir and the other ones from Jura on the Whisky.com channel as well, on the blog. Just key in Jura and you get, I think, half a dozen videos. Of the Jura malts. Okay,
let's continue with the production.
Yep.
So we just stopped at the mash tun, and when the what was it called, the wort? When the wort exits the mash tun, it has something between 60 and 90 degrees Celsius, which is just below the boiling point of water. and that is very, very hot, and the yeasts that produces the alcohol that can't survive on you at these temperatures, so you have to let it cool down. So you can either put it in your wash bags and let it cool down in the wash bags, or you can use this thing here. It's a cooler. It's a mash cooler. So the mash comes in here and goes through this cooler. It's just a normal cooler that you know from unchill filtering, and that chills down the wort, and that enters then the wash bags. And the distillery of the Isle of Jura has 6 wash bags with a capacity of 48,300 liters. So that's quite a lot.
Oh, more.
So
12,000 gallons, something like this. It's quite a lot.
It's quite a lot. So I'm always amazed how pot stills can handle that much fermented stuff. So that's so much fermented wash. So that's a picture of the inside of a wash bag, and you can see it's just being filled. Then it bubbles up and releases a lot of CO2, and that CO2 is then collected and vented outside, because the CO2 inside buildings is pretty dangerous because it just suffocates you. So they all have to have very many safety features, like they have to have a floor with holes in it so the CO2 can get out, and they have to well-ventilated rooms, and they have to suck out the CO2. And they do have quite a long fermentation time for a Scotch whiskey. They have 54 hours of fermentation to get their beer for their distillation.
Just a few sentences to this. 54 is longer than the 48, but I'm not quite sure if there are many distilleries out there which ferment a lot shorter than 40 hours. So there are a few one out there with 72 hours or even 96 hours, and having just shortly over 2 days for the fermentation period, you get every day in the week you get one of those fermenters emptied, and the content is good for 2 wash stills. And so they have 4 stills, haven't they? Yes, we see it soon.
Yep.
And those 4 stills, they are able to run that in just one shift. So they do not have enough fermentation vessels or wash bags to move over to 2-shift schedule.
So yeah, that was so much for the fermentation. We're just before the distillation, just before the hard part, and now we're going to get into the smoky stuff. It's the Jura Superstition, and yesterday we had a bit of a discussion about what is the superstition, and we just superstition. That's the English word. It's just, I think it's is it like make believe? I would translate it from German. Like it's and what you do have on there is an ankh. And the ankh is an Egyptian symbol for good luck. And I propose that this might be a thing for
good luck if you empty that bottle.
Oh yeah, good luck. I just suggested this is a good thing for the Gothic scene, so they might enjoy it. So it's a bit of a silver dark top and the ankh on it. They always love the ankh.
So here on the label we have smoke and spice, and this is 43% ABV, so it's a little stronger and lightly peated, but it does not carry an age statement. And this is because I think they do not have that much amount of maturing peated whiskey at Jura, because they started, I think, in 2000 or 99 something with the peated stuff, and and so there are younger whiskies in this, and if you have peated whiskey, the smoke expression is stronger the younger the whiskey is, and so it helps adding younger whiskies in a mixture to increase the peated level or the peat level. Yeah. Immediately.
Yeah, there is smoke in there. But it's a lightly smoked one. I would say it's I don't know, it feels like 10 ppm, and it's just a whiff of smoke in there with a bit of a seaweed note, bit of a salty note, quite a phenolic note in there, bit of freshness going on.
I would say it's far more than 10 ppm. If you look at Ben Romach, they have 7 to 8 ppm, and it's far less than this one. I would say 15 to 20. So it's definitely smoky.
The ppm scale is a bit of
it's
non-linear, and so you do have a bit of a smoke in there, but it's definitely not dominating. It's just one of the side flavors that you might pick up when you smell in there.
And what's behind? A little sweetness showing through. And it's sharper on the nose, it's cooling. So it's younger whiskey. And okay. The guess is after tasting. Yeah. Okay. A lot more intense than the 16-year-old. Its impact on my tongue, it's prickling. It's kind of peppery sharpness. The alcohol is undistinguishable. So the alcohol is well bound in, and the intenseness, the pepper, the ginger is fading, and the aftertaste is, well, the smoke is covering the inside of my mouth, and it's definitely a lot of smoke in it. So if you do not like smoke, not this one, please.
I do had a lot of the Superstition. I'm amazed how smoky it is when you swallow it, because I find it's quite oily, bit of a nutty tone, also a bit of a herby tone going on with that smoke that always reminds me a bit of a ham. But I had the Superstition as a liter bottle, and I enjoyed it with my friends quite a lot. And I think it's now my
living bottle.
So where all the rest comes in, and there's also bits of cork flying around. So you can actually do a good comparison of the new style and the old style. But I'm not quite sure what the difference is, because also the liter bottle and the 07 bottle.
Yeah, it's just the age. So this is a much older
much older bottle.
Yeah, a much older one, and then they added the label and changed the bottle again. Yeah.
So, but my bottle is quite it's quite soapy. It lost a bit of the smoke, it lost a bit of the oiliness, and went a bit of in the direction of the soapiness, and it's a bit of a what do you call it, fluffy feeling on the mouth. So I like it how that one is a bit fresh. So if you have a bottle of Superstition, I would advise you to put marbles in, or to I don't know,
refill in a smaller bottle.
Refill in a smaller bottle or something like that to preserve it, because I like the fresh one better. The fresh one is better.
There are two chances. You drink faster.
Or like that.
And the other one is to preserve it, or to have a parafilm on top of the cork, so that there's no exchange with oxygen for oxidization, because those young smoky whiskies tend to oxidize and to change taste faster than the others. Do you have some comments?
Yeah, we don't have anybody telling us how they feel the whiskey or how they taste the whiskey, unfortunately. But there are 3 questions in here, or one statement. Okay, good morning, Whisky.com. So must be around here somewhere, or maybe from Eastern Europe. So what are our thoughts on letting the whiskey sit in the glass for 10 to 15 minutes before tasting? Do you feel the whiskey develops in flavor over this period?
Well, this depends. Depends a lot on the whiskey. Some whiskies have those light, shiny aromas which vanish very fast. Then letting the whiskey develop is always a very bad idea, because then the best is gone. On the other hand, if you have a high proof whiskey and you add water, then the solution capability of the whiskey, of the alcohol in the whiskey, reduces, because you reduce ABV by adding water, and the flavors have to rise. And then immediately after adding water, you have to smell those rising aromas. So what I would suggest is smell immediately and smell for 10 to 15 minutes so that you get all those changing aromas until it settles. And then, well, you taste it, you sip it over another 20 minutes until you finish, and then you add up the next dram, and then you sip immediately, because then you have the chance to have the fresh aroma, the fresh taste of the whiskey, because otherwise you wait 15 minutes until you sip the first time. The taste of the whiskey might have changed already over that quarter of an hour. So it's all about time and all about change, and well, your taste changes, the taste of the whiskey changes, time passes, so everything is changing. So you have to smell every part of the fruity, a lot of fruit, a lot of vanilla now. So there's a lot of smokiness is gone, or my tasting buds in my nose, or my receptors in my nose, they got used to the smoke, and then there's a lot more behind. It's quite a complex one. Yeah.
So here we have someone. So why the adding of coloring for the single malt? Wouldn't it harm the image of the good product? Yes, I don't think they need that much coloring. I've been at the distillery, and we had a discussion about the coloring of the whiskey as well, and they showed me a palette of 16-year-old whiskey and how the different casks were differently colored, and there was a huge difference. If you'd like to see it, please have a look at the interview with the lady from the Jura distillery. We had a panel. They have like a wooden panel there with a lot of bottles on it, and then they show how the different coloring is, and they say they add the coloring to level it out. So it's just that the product has to go to the end consumer, and the end consumer wants consistency. Like McDonald's. McDonald's is also very famous for the Big Mac, and the Big Mac has to be the same everywhere, every time, every single thing, and that's what they try to follow as well. So
yeah, a few sentences to coloring from me as well. The 10 years old and the 16 years old do not need coloring at all, because 10 years is quite a time and brings coloring to the whiskey, and therefore I agree with you. The 16-year-old with the part of the Amoroso and Oloroso sherry cask does not need coloring either, so it's just leveling out. But a relatively young Superstition might, because the Superstition is said to be out of ex-bourbon casks and it's young, so this one might have added a little bit too much
I don't
of
believe
a color.
that color either. I wouldn't talk about that color. If you do have coloring in the whiskey, you just don't talk about the color. I had the other one, what was it, 22-year-old Bunnahabhain, awesome color, and it was not colored, not chill filtered. Nice. So horrible logos and Egyptian cultic emblems really downgrade the brand. Many of the bottles could lose sales over that. I'm not a good branding, marketing image, very tacky. Yeah, it is very tacky, but we didn't even know that was Egyptian. We just thought around, and then somebody said, yeah, it is Egyptian. So it's
just a few words. In the beginning, this brand was owned by, I think, White and Mackay. Then Jim Beam bought Invergordon and White and Mackay and put them together, and there was a heavy fighting inside the Scottish industry, because White and Mackay and Invergordon, they were the biggest producers of blended whiskies in Scotland, and the Jim Beam didn't know what to do with this, and they shut down several of those distilleries, like the Tullibardine or the the Bruichladdich, and several others were closed as well. And well, and after all of that, they said, well, we doesn't get to an end, so we sell it in a management buyout. And then they had the staff of White and Mackay buy that out. Then they run it for, I think, 10 years and build up the market. And then the owners, there were two brothers, I think, a hedge fund manager or financial manager, and another one which runs the whiskey business. They well decided to sell it, and they sold it to the English, to India, to United Spirits, I think it was called. And United Spirits was then bought by United Distillers, no, by Diageo from Scotland again. And well, all those whiskies, the Jura and the sister distillery Dalmore from the Northern Highlands, they were de-invested and bought by the Philippines, I think. So
they have a similar design with Dalmore, right?
Yeah.
Where they have the stack, but they have like it pressed on the bottle as well.
And an individual bottle as well, not the standard liquor bottle, but a different one. So there's a lot of movement in that company, and well, some things are good, some things are not that good. Change is good.
Yeah.
For me, change is always good because you have the chance to change for a better, and they changed to add those smoky whiskies.
Yeah,
I find that wonderful.
Yeah, what from the critique I got here, what I really think is a valuable critique is why? Why? What does this have to do with Egyptian culture? I'd really like to know the answer from the guy who said, yeah, let's put an anchor on that. So why? Is there any connection between like the heritage of Scotland, the Highland, and the whiskey and Egypt?
Yes, there is a connection.
Distillation, huh?
Distillation was developed in
Egypt, yeah,
Egypt,
with perfume
with
and stuff.
Perfume.
Yeah.
It was a water steam distillation, and then from there I think it was forgotten and then redeveloped by the Celtic in the area around Bavaria, I think.
Okay.
And then the Celtic were thrown out by the Romans, so they were pushed over France, just out to Ireland. And then they started distillation in Ireland, so there's the dispute between the Irish, we invented distillation, and the Scottish, which said, well, we have the proof of King Friar from 1494 that we made the first water of life.
Okay, good. Enough with the questions, let's continue with the production. So we just ended with the wash, or the Americans call it beer. So beer-like substance without hops, and we enter the distillation. And here you have a little quiz for you. Left is the old stills from 1999, and the new pictures I took in 2015 are a bit different. So there are two differences. So can you find out what the differences are? So let's just give them a little time. So you can see that the left quality is a bit less. So where'd you got the picture from?
Well, I think the 1999 I got from the distillery itself, and the other one is from you. And what you can see...
Don't tell them.
Don't tell them, okay.
Don't tell them. Let's have a look if the chat knows what it is.
We need 12 seconds. We have quite a delay.
We have quite a delay, so let's see. When we reach the picture of the chat, then time is up. Okay, let's see. We reached the picture of the chat, so nobody wrote in it. Okay, so I'm gonna solve it.
Just give him 10 seconds.
Okay. Give them
beautiful people out there.
Come on, you can find out. Then I'll show the picture a bit longer. So.
Yeah, so now we suggest there's an answer behind that picture in the chat.
Yeah, that's the problem. I only have one screen to show. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you now what the answer is. First of all, you have the stills polished. You see the The stills are pretty old there. Maybe they just been renovated here.
Yeah, I think they changed around 2000, 2004. They put the old ones out.
And now they put lacquer on it. And what they also did is they changed the safety equipment. You have here down at the bottom of the old still just below the constricting piece, you have a little valve in it. It's a little ceramic plate, and if the difference between pressure inside the still and outside is too great, then this ceramic plate breaks and the valve is open and the pressure is equalized. And if you have an overpressure because something is stuck in the condenser and it's boiling over and you have an overpressure, then the steam of the distiller of this distillate is going into the room. And I think you have a suggestion why they left it out here in the 2015. They left it out and have a venting to outside.
Yeah, in the year 2000 there was a new regulation, always red tape work, from the European community, and they said, well, every distillery is from now a chemical plant and needs to follow all regulations of chemical plants, and that means you can't vent an overpressure inside a room, you have to go outside. And then at that time also the firing was forbidden to use coal for the firing because of the fine dust which comes out of the chimney, and adding filters would have been far too expensive, so most of them switched either to natural gas or to an oil firing with a boiler, and then indirectly firing with steam through coils. Yeah, and there was some funny note beside when Bricklady opened. They added webcams to the plant so that you can follow the distillation and the spirit safe and everything. And then after 9/11, some around 2002 or 2003, some agency from the US called if they are producing weapons of mass destruction in that chemical factory, and then they produced this weapon of mass destruction series 1 and 2 and made a big deal out of it. It was so funny. Nobody knows how whiskey is really made the old way. So
this is a chemical plant on the right, and left is a distillery. Nah, it's just the Isle of Jura. It's just a distillery. So here you see the spirit still from the bottom, and what you can see is you do have a constricting piece, and that's for the reflux. So you have the boiling fumes, and then you have turbulences in there, and that means some of it doesn't reach the top quite soon. So you have a bit of the other stuff condensing, and typically the bitter and the oily stuff and the stuff that causes headaches condenses. So when you have more reflux with the reflux bowl or with the constricting piece, then you get a lighter, smoother spirit. And when you have a pear shape that's just shooting up the spirits and getting it into condenser, you have a heavier, stronger, spicier spirit, also a bit more headaches there. So, and then we finish up the production with the casking. So the finished product, the new make gets into the cask, and these are all bourbon casks because the Isle of Jura distillery follows the philosophy of bottling only in ex-bourbon barrels, and then they bottle all their spirit in ex-bourbon barrels and let it mature. And after a certain time, when they say, okay, it reached a good maturity, then they thinking about adding a few flavors through a cask finish. So they only do cask finish. They don't start off with different casks. And here you see a variety of casks that they use. Here we have a Grand Cru Classé cask, French, I probably butchered that. And then you have the Limousin oak, that's a French oak, which is a bit more spicy, a bit more heavy, a bit more bitter. So that's really what the typical oakiness taste. That's what the Limousin oak is. Then you have Amoroso sherry cask from Spain. And then the last one is just the normal American standard barrel, which has been used for the bourbon.
Yes, the connection with the Jim Beam distillery is still there, so that I would say 90% of those those casks will come from the Jim Beam distillery.
Yeah, I probably told that in the distillery video, so if you'd like to know more about the cask, then please go on to the distillery video. So that is the production. After that, the whiskey is blended and then bottled, and then we do find the whiskey just in our bottles.
Yeah, just to add a thing to the blending, this is a blending inside the distillery, so the resulting whiskey is still a single malt. It's a blending between the different casks inside that distillery. Yeah, now we're reaching the fourth and the last whiskey in our tasting. It's the Prophecy, and the Prophecy is a little lighter in color because they use the ex-bourbon cask, and then they finish it up in those Limousin French casks. Well, they use heavily peated malt for it, and so it's called Spicy Sea Spray, heavily peated. It's 46% ABV, and it's unchill filtered. So this is the heavy stuff from Jura, and this has typically not to hide against other island malts with a heavy peat content. And to say it here, it's not, well, those whiskies aren't that expensive. They are relatively moderate in price because the Jura distillery is not that well known, and a few of them are definitely a bargain until all the people find out how good the Jura whiskey is, and jump on the bandwagon.
And what you also do get with the Jura Prophecy is a little backstory, and there is the eye on it, and that has to do with the fact that there was what you call a shaman, or somebody who tells a fortune teller, or someone who tells the future, and they were upset with who was that guy? Campbell. What was his first name? Campbell. Only Campbell. Yeah, the guy who owned the distillery back then, who was really rich, and he was a big lord. Or maybe he was big of the house of Campbell or something. You do see around the Kildalton Cross there is a big grave from the Campbells there, and I think they used to own Campbell came from Campbelltown or something. But they also been on Isla as well in Jura, and that fortune teller said, "Yeah, you will leave. The last Campbell to leave this island will leave the island with only one eye." And only the possessions will all fit in one cart. And that actually what happened. So I don't know how much truth is behind there, but that's the prophecy behind the Jura Prophecy. And there is the eye. I think yesterday we argued about, is it the eye of Isis, or the Isis, the Egyptian Isis? Or is it the eye of Horus, or the eye of Ra? Something with the Egyptians
Perhaps
again.
Perhaps if you finish the bottle, you would
you would get a third eye.
have one eye left. How it's said to those booze whiskey, which is produced without any control. Well, you can risk one eye, which is complete nonsense, because the methyl alcohol will kill both eyes of you. So, yeah, this is the
smoky one.
The
smoky one.
The big finish of this row of whiskies. And this is definitely a buy, because it not only shows the bonfire smoke, but as well the aromatic, medicinal, phenolic style of smoke. And there are ratings in our whiskey database about the smoke of the peat content of this whiskey, and the Prophecy is rated higher than the Jura. In terms of points, it's 50 to 60 something, so it's definitely a little bit more peaty, but the highest rankings in terms of Isla peat, they are around 70 to 80. So this is still a little bit less peated, than the Islay malts.
Someone asks, Andrew Gilmore asks, ABV. It's 46% ABV. For all the Americans out there, that's 92 proof.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does anybody still out there calculate with proof, or do I make a fool of myself because I always translate it?
This one is a little bit. Can you switch me on the other? This one is a little bit drier. This is from the Limousin casks because they do not carry these fruits from the sherry or from the Pinot Noir where the Grand Cru Classé cask came from. No, this one shows this oakiness, not bitter. It's not long enough in the oak cask that it brings out bitterness, but it shows the oakiness, shows the spice, and it's a little bit drier, so my tongue is sticking a little bit to the roof of my mouth. Yeah.
I also do find it quite heavy. Just after you swallow it, you have a lot of smoke, and for me the smoke always reminds me of ham. I don't know why, but always a bit ham in there, and it's also a little bit of bitterness, chocolate, and these deep flavors. A little bit of, I don't want to say leather because it's, I don't never taste leather. But
if you taste leather, it's always artificial.
Yeah, but
so
it's what you would imagine leather tastes like from the smell of wet leather coat. That's what I want to say if I say leather.
And my old armchair, where I take my videos, it's Chinese plastic. So this is a really, definitely intense Islay style whiskey. With a residue of the Jura malts in it, so it's not too strange. It shows the same, way Jura develops.
It's interesting how the leather steps up. The latter steps up to just more heavy, because this one is quite heavy. Yeah. With all the smoke and all the intensity of...
You get the smoke, you get the Limousin cask, you get the 46%, you get the unchill filtering, so everything in this whiskey says heavy, strong, intense. Yeah, so we're quite through. Let me, in the end, I beg your pardon about the time schedule of this video, and please subscribe to our newsletter on Whisky.com, because there we always send out a newsletter a few days before these live events, and then you might be able to buy those samples to have a live tasting with us. Well, and this reminder is, well, it's for free.
Yeah. So I have a bit of a announcement, and I'm very happy the stream stayed on. We didn't stream in full HD, so we only streamed in 720p. But what I did is I did sharpen the image a bit, so you can see that the pictures are just a bit sharper. And what I also found out in OBS is that you can do color corrections in the different cameras, so it looks quite similar now from here to there and to Horst's camera. And plus I don't always have to switch cameras like that, but I can switch it with my foot now. So so it's quite nice. So we do have a little bit of upgrade, and
I think those switches are from looping, aren't they?
Looping?
Looping is this recording on stage.
Yeah, they're from these from guitarists where they switch to different modes for their loops and electronic guitars and that kind of stuff. But they don't work quite well. If you know,
loud,
they are loud, but they don't work like a keyboard. They are specific to certain programs, so I always have to switch sides if I want to go on the slideshow. So I'm still looking for a good way to do the slideshow, but because it always shows the Windows bars and the Windows bars on the bottom. So yeah, if you have any suggestions, then just drop me an email at info@whisky.com and I'll take up any suggestions to improve the stream, or if you have any other improvements to our videos, just leave a comment on the blog or in the forum and we pick that up.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That's it.
Thank you very much for watching all over the world, and good night, good day, or good morning, to whatever time zone you are, and see you next time. So this time I did not stop streaming.
Okay.
Stop.